Hi, and welcome to your next PB&J card class. This week we'll be creating cards using a simple sketch, and here's a look at the sketch that we'll be using. This is a really fun sketch because it leaves lots of room to play and for interpretation. Here's a look at the set of cards I created using this sketch as a guide. And the stamps that we'll be using are Penny Black Letter Background and also Penny Black Enjoy Life, the clear set. I'm going to begin with 4 pieces that I've punched, and 3 of them are squares and 1 is a heart. And I'm going to be stamping these with VersaFine ink. And so I'm just inking up my stamp. I'm starting with the fern here. And I'm going to stamp onto that square. But I'm going to be stamping off the edge of the square, only part of the image, so I'm just putting some scratch paper down here. And it's really fun with this sketch to do these small sort of square or pieces because you get a whole different look from your stamps. Next I'll take the butterfly, and I'm also inking that with VersaFine ink. And I'm going to stamp it onto 2 of the squares, again going off of the edge of the cardstock. Now once those are stamped, I am going to heat them with my heat gun here because I decided to use my Copics, and I just want to be sure that that ink is completely dry. And we'll begin coloring with the fern, and because we're going to distress over the top of this, it's really not critical to spend a lot of time coloring, just enough to give it the hint of color. So I'm starting with YG91, and I'm just feathering that over each of the leaves of the fern, and then I'm coming in here with YG95, and just feathering that in, not going out as far as I did with the first color. And I'll do the same thing here on the fern that's on the right hand side. So starting with that YG91, and then I'll feather over the top of that with the darker green, the YG95. And if you're looking for a listing of the Copic markers I'm using today, at the end of the video, if you wait till the very end, I will list all those for you here on the video. Now to color in the butterfly, I'm going to begin by coloring with V12, and I'm going to color the entire butterfly. Next I'll take V15, and feathering from the center of the body out, I'll add that little bit darker shade. I'll go even darker with V17, and then I'll go back and blend that with the V12 and also the V15. Now for our sentiment, I'm using this Penny Black clear set, and this is a sentiment here that I cut. So it's okay to cut your clear sets or your clear stamps. They'll go back together when you reposition them back on your acrylic block. So I'm inking this with the VersaFine again and stamping onto a piece of cardstock, which once that's dry, then I'll go ahead and cut that into the shape of a banner. Now we're ready to add some distress ink to our pieces. So to the ferns, I'm using Forest Moss Distress Ink with the ink blending tool and the foam applicator pad. And I'm just adding that, going all the way around, and it's a little bit darker towards the bottom and that left-hand corner. So I just keep adding more layers and pressing a little bit harder onto that section. I'm also going to edge this using brushed corduroy, so I'm just holding it in my hand and applying that right along the edges. Now for our butterfly pieces, we'll ink those with brushed corduroy. So I'm starting off of the page and working my way on. And I may go over the butterfly just a little bit, but I'm trying not to completely cover that with the distress ink. And then I'm also edging this as well. And you do the same thing for your other butterfly piece. Now for the heart, I'm inking this with the Forest Moss Distress Ink, and I'm keeping it a little bit darker on the top just for some interest, so some areas are light and some are dark. And this is Penny Black Letter Background, just a great stamp to do sort of a tone-on-tone look. So I'm inking with the same ink I used on the front, the Forest Moss, and then stamping that with that same ink. Now that sentiment I also want to edge with the brushed corduroy. So I'm very carefully doing that with the foam applicator pad just along the edges. Now this is Penny Black Mix and Match cardstock, which I embossed using an embossing folder from Sizzix. And now I'm taking my sanding tool and I'm rubbing that gently over the paper. And because Penny Black Mix and Match cardstock has a white core, you'll see that some of that white starts to show through. The more you rub with the sanding tool, the more you will see beneath. And then what I love to do now is take my Distress ink, and I'm using brushed corduroy, and I'm going right very lightly over the top of this background. And those areas that have been sanded off are going to take more of that ink. It's going to show up really well on that white. And it just is a new way to give new life to your embossing folders, and it's so fast and easy. Now to assemble these squares onto the card, I'm going to use pop dots, so I'm added that to all of the squares. And what I like to do is just very lightly put these onto the paper. You can see I can remove them and sort of slide them around and make sure I have everything centered exactly where I want it before I put them down permanently. And then once I have them exactly where I want them, then I'll just press down a little bit more and make sure that they're down. And I'll add that sentiment. The last thing we need to do is to add this to our card, so I'm applying adhesive around all the edges. And I'll adhere this to the front of our card. Here's another look at that finished card. And another look at the set of cards. I used the same techniques, just switched up the colors. For details and more information, visit www.pennyblackink.com. Thanks for watching.